I sold your car to pay my credit card, Mom said casually. My 2024 Camry. Just paid off. $34,000. I said, okay. Called the buyer. That car was stolen. Police showed up at his house. He gave them my mom's info. When the officers knocked on her door, my name is Christopher Hale and I'm 31 years old. 3 weeks ago, I walked into my mom's kitchen after a 24-hour shift at the firehouse, and she was standing at the counter, stirring sugar into her coffee like it was just another Tuesday, when she said, "Oh, by the way, I sold your car to pay off my credit card." She meant my 2024 Camry, the one I just finished paying off. Sticker price, $34,000. My pride and joy. I felt my brain misfire for a second, like a hose suddenly kinked in the middle of a fire. I asked as calmly as I could, "You sold my car?" She took another sip. "Don't get dramatic, Chris. It was sitting in my driveway all weekend. You weren't using it. I got $26,000 for it. My cards were maxed. You're a firefighter. You'll bounce back." She really said that like I was going to nod and thank her. Instead, I said, "Okay." I walked outside, sat on the curb where my Camry should have been, and called the guy whose name was on the transfer slip I'd found on the counter. "Hi, I'm the registered owner of that 2024 Camry you bought from my mother yesterday," I told him. "She didn't have permission to sell it. That car was stolen." 2 hours later, the police were knocking on his door. He showed them the bill of sale with her name and the forged signature, pretending to be mine. Then they took down my mom's information. That same evening, 2 patrol cars pulled up in front of my mom's house while she was watching her game shows. Before I tell you what happened when she opened that door, please take a second to like and subscribe, but only if this story really hits something in you. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand how we got there, I need to take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a little 2-bedroom house on the east side of our city. My dad, Mark, was a mechanic. My mom, Linda, bounced between receptionist jobs and between jobs, which meant sitting at the kitchen table with catalogs and bills spread out like a paper tornado. I was the oldest by 4 years. My little brother Jason was the golden child from the moment he arrived. When we were kids, the pattern was already obvious. If Jason wanted the last slice of pizza, Mom would say, "Chris, you're the big brother. Let him have it." If Jason threw a tantrum in the toy aisle, Mom would cave and buy him a Hot Wheels set, then turn to me and say, "You don't mind, right? You're my responsible one." Responsible meant invisible. I still remember one Christmas when I was 10 and Jason was 6. My big gift was a secondhand Game Boy with a cracked screen. His was a brand new remote control car that my parents had to put on a payment plan. He ripped open the box, squealing while Mom filmed him on her phone. "You're happy with your little thing, right, honey?" She tossed over her shoulder at me. Dad looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. That was kind of his thing. Fix everyone else's cars, never fix what was broken at home. The first person who really noticed the imbalance was my Uncle Ray, Dad's older brother. He was a firefighter, the kind of guy who smelled like smoke and coffee and always had sunburned forearms. Whenever he visited, he'd clap a big hand on my shoulder and ask about school, about sports, about what I wanted to do with my life. Not about Jason's latest hobby, not about Mom's dramas, about me. One afternoon after a barbecue, he pulled me aside while Jason was tearing around the yard with a brand new bike Mom had found the money for somehow. "You do a lot around here, kid," he said. "Don't let them convince you that you owe them for existing." I didn't really understand what he meant. I was 14, taking out the trash, helping Jason with homework, staying out of trouble. I thought that's just what you did as the oldest. Then Dad died when I was 17. Sudden heart attack in the shop. 1 minute he was under a truck. The next minute he was gone. Mom unraveled in slow motion. Collectors started calling. Credit cards appeared out of nowhere. She'd come into my room with red eyes and say things like, "I just need $200 to get through this month. When you're older, you'll understand how hard it is." I was working part-time at a grocery store after school, and everything I made went straight into keeping the lights on. Meanwhile, Jason somehow still got new sneakers, the latest game console, Cash for gas even before he had a license. Whenever I questioned it, Mom would snap, "He's still a kid. You're practically an adult." At 19, I joined the fire academy. Part of it was because of Uncle Ray. Part of it was because the idea of a steady paycheck and benefits felt like winning the lottery. When I graduated and got my first assignment at Station 14, Uncle Ray showed up at the ceremony with a small fireproof lockbox. "For your important papers," he said. "Promise me you'll keep copies of everything: titles, contracts, bank statements." People make stupid choices when they're scared and broke. Protect yourself. I promised. I meant it. But I also thought, it's just Mom, not some scammer off the street. That was my first mistake. Once I was a full-time firefighter, the money started flowing, and most of it flowed straight into my mother's problems. The first big hit was the roof. "Chris, the roof is leaking right over Jason's room," she said over the phone one afternoon. "If we don't fix it, the whole ceiling will collapse." I got an estimate. It's only $5,800. Only. At that point, I was making about $52,000 a year before taxes. I ran overtime shifts whenever I could pick them up and pulled $6,000 out of my savings to pay the roofer directly. Mom hugged me, crying. "You saved us. You're the man of the house now. I'll pay you back when I'm back on my feet." She never got back on her feet. Over the next few years, there were 100 little emergencies. "Can you cover my car payment this month? They're threatening to repossess it. I just need $300 for the gas bill. They sent a shutoff notice. I'm so scared. The minimum on my card is $450, and if I miss it, they'll raise the interest again." You don't know what that's like. I made spreadsheets because that's what Uncle Ray told me to do. Over 5 years, I transferred a little over $27,000 to my mother. Rent, utilities, credit cards, random fees she couldn't explain. Jason, during those years, managed to flunk out of community college, bounce between 3 different jobs, and somehow always have the latest iPhone. Mom's explanation was always the same. "He's still figuring things out. You're stable. You can handle it." Stable started to feel like code for walking ATM. The first time I pushed back, I was 29. Mom called crying about a $900 card payment. "I can spot you $300, I said. "That's all I can do right now." She went quiet. "Wow," she said finally. "After everything I've done for you, I carried you for 9 months, and now you're nickel and diming your own mother." I hung up that call and stared at my spreadsheet, at the red total at the bottom. $27,460. That was the night my inner monologue started to change from, "This is just what family does," to, "This is not normal. This is exploitation." Uncle Ray saw it coming before I did. We were sitting on the back steps of the firehouse during a slow shift, sharing stale donuts from the break room. I told him about the latest emergency, about the guilt trips, about Jason's new tattoo and PlayStation. Ray shook his head. "Chris, you've got to put boundaries in writing. Start saying no. Start keeping proof of where your money goes. You think I'm being paranoid, but when people get desperate, they'll sell anything that isn't nailed down, sometimes even things that are." I remember laughing. "What's she going to do? Sell my gear?" He didn't laugh back. "Just promise me you'll keep your title somewhere she can't reach." I did. For a while. When I was 30, I finally bought myself something that felt like more than survival. A brand new 2024 Toyota Camry SE, midnight black, 18-inch alloy wheels, all the safety packages. Sticker price just under $34,000, financed with a $0 down payment, because I'd been dumping all my savings into a certain person's bottomless pit. I picked up extra overtime, took every holiday shift nobody wanted, and threw every spare dollar at that car loan. 14 months later, I sent in my last payment. I remember the high of it, standing in my driveway, keys in hand, knowing that for once I owned something free and clear. Not Mom, not the bank. Me. The title arrived in the mail 2 weeks later. I took it out of the envelope like it was made of gold. And that's where my second mistake came in. I stopped by Mom's house on my way home from the DMV that day. She said she needed help bringing in groceries. I dropped my backpack on the chair in the hallway, the one I always used growing up, still half covered in old mail and junk. "What you got there?" she asked, spotting the envelope as we came back inside. "Title for the Camry," I said, smiling. "She's officially mine." I should have shoved it back into my bag. I didn't. She reached for it, flipping it open. "Wow, look at my big man with his fancy car. Your father would be so proud." It felt nice hearing that. I let her hold it a second too long. Then she said, "Do you have a safe place for this? You're always running into burning buildings. God forbid something happens, someone needs to know where your paperwork is." I hesitated, thinking about Uncle Ray's lockbox at my apartment. "You can leave it in my file cabinet," she suggested. "I keep all the family papers together. It's safer that way." Against every warning bell in my head, I nodded. "Sure, just don't lose it." She patted my cheek. "I'm not a child, Christopher." Turns out, she didn't lose it. She used it. Fast forward to the day everything snapped. I'd worked a brutal 24-hour shift, structure fire, car accident on the highway, 2 medical calls overnight. By the time we pulled back into the station that morning, my eyes felt like sandpaper. I crashed on my couch for a few hours, then headed over to Mom's because she'd texted, "Need to talk." Scared. Her driveway was empty. At first, my brain didn't register it. I parked on the street with my backup truck, an old beater I kept for hauling stuff, and walked up, figuring maybe she'd parked the Camry in the garage. The garage was empty too. Inside, she was making coffee like nothing was wrong. "Where's my car?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Oh, that. Stir, stir. That's what I needed to talk to you about. I sold it." I actually laughed. "What?" "I sold your car to pay my credit card." She repeated like she was telling me she borrowed a sweater. "Don't make that face, Christopher. The interest was killing me. I got 20. 6. That's a good price. You can just get another one." I stood there, feeling my pulse thunder in my ears. "You sold my car. How?" "Don't talk to me like I'm stupid," she snapped. "I had the title. I put it in my name. I signed the paperwork. I'm your mother. What's yours is mine." That's when I knew she'd gone into the file cabinet, pulled the title, and forged my signature. Jason strolled into the kitchen, yawning, scrolling his phone. "Mom, can I get your Uber password? I'm going out tonight." She smiled at him. "Of course, baby." She'd stolen my car to pay for her bad decisions, and her first instinct was to fund Jason's night out. Something in me went ice cold. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Okay." I walked outside before the anger boiled over. I sat down on the curb, pulled up the copy of my registration on my phone, and called the DMV. They confirmed what I already suspected. I was still the registered owner. The transfer paperwork from her little garage sale of my life hadn't processed yet. Then I called the buyer. His name was on the bill of sale she'd left on the counter, Evan Rogers, with a phone number. "Hello?" he answered, suspicious. "Hi, Evan," I said. "My name is Christopher Hale. I'm the legal owner of the 2024 Camry you bought yesterday from a woman named Linda." A pause. Yeah?" "She didn't have permission to sell it," I said. "The title she used was stolen from me. I've just filed a report. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I need you to know the car is stolen property right now." He swore under his breath. She said it was her son's, but he'd moved out and didn't need it. That he agreed. "She lied," I said. "I'm sending you a photo of the police report case number and a copy of the registration in my name. The officers handling it will probably want to talk to you." He was quiet for a long beat, then said, "Send it. I'm not going to be on the hook for this." An hour later, an officer called me back to confirm details. I laid it all out: the title, my ownership, the forged signature. Then they went to Evan's address. He showed them the bill of sale with my mother's handwriting all over it, the text messages arranging the deal, the bank transfer. He gave them her phone number and address. By early evening, I was sitting in Mom's living room when the knock came. 2 officers, one male, one female. "Miss Hale?" the woman asked when Mom opened the door. "Yes?" Mom's smile was automatic. Charming. Is something wrong? We'd like to ask you some questions about a vehicle you sold yesterday, the male officer said. A 22-4 Toyota Camry. We have reason to believe there may have been some discrepancies in the paperwork. Mom's eyes flicked to me, then back to them. This is ridiculous, she said, laughed too high. It was my car. My son gifted it to me. I didn't say a word. I just held up my phone with the DMV record pulled up. Ma'am, the female officer said calmly, the registration is still in your son's name. He's reported the vehicle stolen. We also have concerns about forged signatures on a title document. You're not under arrest at this moment, but we do need you to come down and make a statement. Jason came out of his room, eyes wide. What? Mom rounded on me. You called the cops on your own mother? I finally spoke. No, Mom. I called the cops about a felony theft. You just happened to be the one who committed it, Jason sputtered. It's just a car, man. The male officer shook his head. Grand theft over $10,000 is not just a car. They took her down to the station to give a statement. She didn't get cuffed, but the look on her face as she grabbed her purse was different. For the first time, I saw fear under the outrage. Uncle Ray picked me up from the house later that night. We sat in his truck in the dark, engine off. Told you to protect yourself, he said quietly. I know, I said. I messed up letting her get that title. But I'm done. Done how? He asked. Done being her ATM. Done being the backup insurance policy. Done letting her treat my life like a piggy bank she can smash every time she overspends. Ray nodded. Then you're going to need more than just a police report. You're going to need paperwork and witnesses. Which brings me to the night everything went truly public. A week after the police visit, Mom's 60th birthday rolled around. Despite everything, she insisted on having a big family dinner at my Aunt Karen's house. No negativity, Christopher, she texted in our family group chat. It's my milestone birthday. Be there by 6. I almost didn't go, but Uncle Ray called. Show up, he said. Bring your folder. My folder was a thick binder I'd put together over those sleepless nights after my car vanished. Bank statements highlighting every transfer I'd made to my mother over the years, the incident report about the stolen Camry, a printout of my DMV registration, even screenshots of text messages where she admitted selling the car. Quick pause before we walk into that party. If you were in my boots at this point, what would you have done? Confront her in private. Cut contact and disappear. Let me know in the comments, and remember to hit like only if you actually want more stories like this. Back to the birthday. Aunt Karen's dining room was packed. Mom had gone all out, even with a pending investigation hanging over her. Balloons, banners, cake with Fabulous 60 written in pink icing. Jason was already there, beer in hand, laughing with cousins. When I walked in, the room got that weird dip in volume people do when drama walks through the door. Mom was at the head of the table, wearing a sparkly dress and the same smug expression she'd had stirring sugar into her coffee the day she told me she'd sold my car. Oh, look who decided to show up, she said loudly. Are the police giving you a night off from harassing your own family? A few relatives shifted in their seats. I set my binder down on a side table and took a breath. Happy birthday, Mom. Dinner was awkward. People tried to make small talk. Mom kept dropping comments like, some children know how to honor their parents, while squeezing Jason's arm. After dessert, she clinked her glass with a spoon. I just want to say a few words, she said, standing. 60 years on this earth, and I've done it mostly alone. I raised 2 sons with very little help. I made sacrifices no one appreciates. And yet, when I make one little mistake, certain people think it's okay to sick the police on me. All eyes swung my way. She dabbed fake tears. I used that car money to pay off debt that was crushing me. Debt I took on to support this family after Mark died. I'm not a criminal. I'm a mother. A few aunts murmured sympathy. Jason chimed in. Yeah, man. You went way too far. You could have just talked to her. Uncle Ray stood up slowly. Linda, I'd like to say something too. She shot him a glare. This is my speech, Raymond. He ignored her and motioned to me. Chris? I grabbed the binder, feeling my hands shake just slightly, and moved to the other end of the table. If we're going to have story hour, let's tell the whole story, I said. My voice surprised me. It was steady, calm. The same voice I use on scene when everything's on fire and someone needs instructions. I opened the binder to the first page and held it up. This is a bank statement from 3 years ago. $1,200 transfer from my account to yours, Mom. That was for your car payment and your electric bill. Flip. Here's $800 for your medical copays. $6,000 to the roofing company directly when the roof was leaking. $450 here, $300 there. Over 5 years, I've sent you just over $27,000. A low murmur went around the table. I flipped to the next section. This is the official registration from the DMV, showing I am the sole owner of the 2024 Camry. This is the police incident report, where I'm listed as the victim of vehicle theft. And these, I held up a set of printed texts, are messages where you admit selling the car behind my back. Jason scoffed. You're really going to humiliate her on her birthday? I looked at him. She humiliated herself when she forged my signature and committed fraud, Jason. One of my cousins, who works in insurance, cleared his throat. Wait, she forged your name on a title? I nodded. Yes, that's why the police showed up. They interviewed the buyer, pulled the texts, and compared signatures. This isn't a family misunderstanding. It's a felony. Mom's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. You're twisting everything, she said weakly. I had to do something. I was drowning. And besides, you always said you'd take care of me. Taking care of you doesn't mean you get to steal from me, I said. It doesn't mean you get to decide what I own and what I don't. It doesn't mean I'm obligated to fund your credit card debt while Jason gets new toys and night-out money. Aunt Karen, who'd always stayed neutral, spoke up for the first time. Linda, is this true? Did you sell his car? Mom's eyes flashed. I am his mother, she repeated, as if that was a legal defense. Everything I have went into these boys. Uncle Ray laid a manila folder on the table. The detective sent over copies of the paperwork, he said, including the title with your forged signature. They asked me to give this to Chris's lawyer. The room went silent. My lawyer, I confirmed, because I'm pressing charges, and I've already frozen any financial help I used to give you. Mom grabbed the back of her chair like she needed it to stand. You'd send your own mother to jail over a car? I took a breath. No, I'd let the justice system decide what happens after you stole and forged my name. I'm just refusing to cover it up for you. Jason exploded. You're such a selfish man. She did everything for us. Uncle Ray turned his gaze on him. Everything? Chris paid her bills while you bought sneakers and gaming systems. Where were you when the roof needed fixing? When the utilities were about to get shut off? Jason shut his mouth, but his ears were red. I closed the binder. Here's how it's going to be from now on. Mom, I'm not your bank. Any further contact about money goes through my lawyer. I will cooperate with the police and the DA. I will not lie for you. I will not shrug it off as family business. You can't just walk away, she shouted, voice cracking. I can, I said quietly. And I am. I set the binder in front of her, turned, and walked out of that dining room, past the banner and the balloons and the cake. Nobody followed me out. Not then. The aftermath hit like a second wave. The next morning, my phone blew up. Texts from Mom. You're killing me. Are you happy? I gave you life, and this is how you repay me. I'll have a record. I'll lose everything. Jason chimed in. You're dead to me, dude. A couple of aunts tried guilt-tripping me, too. Family is all we have. You don't air dirty laundry in public. You could have handled it quietly. My responses were short and copy and paste. Please direct all questions about the case to my attorney. I will not discuss this further. I will no longer be providing financial assistance. Uncle Ray helped me find a lawyer who specializes in financial abuse and elder exploitation cases. Ironic, considering my mother is not the elder in this equation, but the pattern is similar. The DA ended up filing charges for fraud and felony theft. No dramatic perp walk, no TV cameras, just paperwork and court dates, and a very real possibility of probation, fines, or worse for her if she didn't make it right. The buyer, Evan, was treated as a victim too. He cooperated fully, and eventually the car was returned to me as part of the agreement. He lost nothing but time and frustration. My mother, on the other hand, lost something she thought she'd never have to worry about: control. A few weeks later, I got a letter from her attorney offering a settlement. She'd agreed to pay back the value of the car over time in exchange for me dropping the charges. The payment plan was laughable: $100 a month for over 20 years. My lawyer sent back a counteroffer: immediate repayment from the sale of her own car and a co-signed loan with Jason contributing half, plus mandatory financial counseling, plus a written agreement that she would never attempt to access or interfere with my assets again. She screamed about it in the family group chat. I muted it. In the end, faced with the alternative of going forward with a fraud case, she took the deal. She sold her car, got a cheaper one, and Jason begrudgingly agreed to help. The money hit my account. It didn't feel like a win. It felt like closing a chapter I should never have had to write. The bigger victory was quieter. I moved my important documents back into Uncle Ray's lockbox. I updated all my passwords. I took my name off every bill that wasn't mine. No more automatic transfers, just until she catches up. No more being the safety net for someone who cuts holes in it on purpose. The first weekend after everything settled, I hosted a small barbecue at my own place. It wasn't fancy: burgers, cheap paper plates, my firefighter buddies lounging in camp chairs. Uncle Ray sat at the head of my patio table, telling old station stories. My girlfriend, Leela, helped my neighbor's kids roast marshmallows over the little fire pit. My Camry sat in the driveway, washed and gleaming under the late afternoon sun. Mine. At one point, Ray nudged my shoulder. "How's it feel?" "Strange," I admitted. "Quiet, but good." He nodded. "Peace always feels weird at first when you grew up on chaos." We watched the kids chase each other with sticky fingers, the grill smoke curling into the sky. "I keep thinking I'm being too harsh," I said. "Like maybe I should have just let it go." Ray shook his head. "Walking away isn't revenge, Chris. It's survival. Your mother made her choices. You're finally making yours." He was right. These days, my circle is smaller. It's my crew at the station who've literally had my back under collapsing roofs. It's Lila who packs me meals for long shifts. It's my neighbor who brings over coffee when I get home from nights. It's Uncle Ray who shows up with paperwork and practical advice instead of guilt. Blood gave me a starting line, not a prison sentence. I still get the occasional message from Mom, some new twist on "you owe me," some new attempt to claw her way back into my finances, if not my life. Most of the time, I don't respond. When I do, it's the same as always: "Please contact my attorney." I've learned something I wish I'd understood years ago. Real family is not the people who think your paycheck belongs to them. Real family is not the ones who scream, "But I'm your mother," while they steal from you. Real family is the people who show up with respect, who hear no and don't treat it like betrayal. I can't change the fact that my mom sold my car like it was hers. I can't change the years I spent as her emergency fund instead of her son. But I can choose who gets a front row seat in my life now. And from here on out, my seats are reserved for people who don't see me as a wallet and turnout gear, but as a man who finally learned how to say, "That's enough."